Africa, is a mind. So Hasina Patel is a mind, body, spirit breakthrough coach, author, international speaker, and Akashic Records reader. As I said, she's based in South Africa, Newcastle in Natal. She coaches individuals worldwide to unstress and unlimit themselves and reclaim their voices so that they can get healthy, be heard, and get paid. Hasina is also co-founder and executive director of Leave No Girl Behind International and co-creator of the Bubbles Beyond Borders campaign for gender equality. She has co-authored her fourth and latest book with her sister, Shamima, titled Unstressed, Unlimited, and Unbreakable. Now, today, Hasina's presentation is entitled, I Am Nourisher, the Nourish and the Nourishment. So, welcome, Hasina.
Thank you so much, Tex. And I just want to say thank you to you, Tex and Annie, for your hard work just making this happen in the whole self-nurturing and healing justice room. So thank you for that. So, hello, everyone. So as you heard, I'm from South Africa. Since there were a few of us, I think it's great if you could maybe type into the chat where you're from. It's just a great thing to know. And it's a wonderful concept that we can meet on Zoom in the same place, maybe not in the same time zone, but here live. And it doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing, we can come together. It doesn't matter about boundaries or lockdowns or anything like that. So thank you for your energy as we begin the session. I always like to set an intention for every session that I do. I'm looking into the chat, Colorado, Florida, awesome. So I always like to set an intention, and today's intention, I'm just going to screen share so that we can all look at today's intention. And hopefully you'll see it in a few seconds. Everyone can just take a few deep breaths, just being in the space that this is your time. We're going to all be in this energy space together and getting out of it what we need to. We're all here for our own purpose. And even if we don't recognize that purpose, the universe connects the dots. I am seeing a black screen. I don't really know why, but if you're seeing something else on my screen,
I see the full your full desktop screen. I see you have the slides that you want to share, so you may want to select them individually.
Okay, let's see. Let me just the slide is looking black at the moment, but I'm not going to let that hold me back. Let's just move on. And apologies if you're seeing a black screen. Oh, it's actually coming on. Wonderful. Great energy, people. All right. Let me just take a deep breath. And the intention is here. Guide me today to live in peace, step out in power, act in knowing, think what feels good, acknowledge beauty, and give who I am. And as we're looking at that and just feeling that, I'm looking at the last line, give who I am. And I'm going to ask you a question, which is such a huge question in our lives in any one moment. Who am I? We ask ourselves this many times every day at significant periods where we just scanning our life, looking at things. Who am I? And that may not be a question that you or I can answer, because we're ever evolving, we're ever changing. So how about this question to begin with? What is your biggest dream? If you have an answer for that, or you have even a sense of that, just write down anything that you have a sense of in your journal or on paper, or type it on your screen right now. What is your biggest dream?
My biggest dream?
Yes, biggest dream. Yeah. I see we have someone from Ireland. So we're on 3 different continents, it seems. Awesome. As we're looking at that question, which you don't necessarily have to answer now, but by the end of this, you may have a sense of this, or you may just clarify. Going into the overview, Tex mentioned that the title of the session is I Am the Nourisher, the Nourished, and the Nourishment. And that can be in a very literal sense, where anyone fan of any fans of the Lion King here, where you're talking about the cycle of life, where you are the nourisher, where you're giving life in whatever form, and then you are the nourished, where you are receiving. You're receiving food, you're receiving sustenance, fuel, and you become the nourishment. In the very literal sense, our bodies fertilize the earth again. Our bodies go to the earth. We become the nourishment. However, let's look a little deeper. The deeper meaning is I am nourisher. Right here where we are now, we are nourishing ourselves just by being at sessions like these. We are nourishing others in our lives also by being at sessions like these, because we want to become better nourishers. And perhaps we're nourishing those in our lives literally. Those of you who have children or grandchildren or partners, that is nourishment in some form, or parents. So that is being the nourisher. And then we are the nourished as we glean information from sessions like these, and we metabolize that. I know, Tex, you were speaking about how you wanted to, I can't remember what word you used, take it all in and assimilate it. And that's being nourished. And then we come the nourishment, where who we are embodies what we stand for. It embodies our deepest truth. It embodies our message, and we are our message personified, walking every day in the world. And that's where we're getting to. And our experiences are the tools to do that. Our experiences nourish us, and we give them meaning. They add to our message. Those experiences all become in contrast. When you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. Going back to that question, who am I? And I'll tell the story that I tell a lot of times in my talks that I do for women, and even just in general, that I was 3 years old when I committed my first crime, aided and abetted by my mother. I was like any 3-year-old. I was shopping with my mom, wanted to go to the bathroom. Now let me set the stage for you. It was 1978 in apartheid South Africa. In town, there were bathrooms that read whites only, and there were other bathrooms that read non-whites only. Now, us being non-whites, by law, had to go to the non-white bathroom. And my mom took me in, and the bathrooms were such a mess that she walked right out with me and then walked straight into the whites only bathroom. And I don't remember too much about it, except little clips where what happened was I was washing my hands, and a lady who happened to be white, who was in the bathroom, saw us and turned to my mom and said, "You're not supposed to be here." And without skipping a beat, my mother replied, "Who are you, the toilet police?" And of course, that took such a lot of courage, which I only came to recognize later, because that's standing up for your human rights, standing up against a law that was wrong. And at that moment, in that moment, she was being her deepest truth. She was stepping out in courage because she was her message. At that stage, she was the nourishment. She walked her talk. And I received a lot of messages. So in that moment, the message that as an adult I could look at was that I am separate. This is supposed to be my place, but it doesn't fit with who I am. So assimilating that, I was very fortunate. I went to, the next year I went to school, started with preschool, and there was a private school in our town, and my parents decided to send me to that private school. It happened to be a Catholic school. I'm not Catholic, I'm not Christian, but it was run by Dominican sisters who believed that everyone was equal. So it was like heaven on earth in the time of apartheid South Africa, because we were treated in the enclosure of the school. And when I was in school uniform, it was like armor. No matter where I went in town, that it felt like a protection almost, because I knew what could be. I saw a long time ago what could be in our country and in the world. And as that happened, I grew up knowing that that could be the way things were. And I knew that potential. So let's fast forward. This is not all going to be about me. We're going to have a very practical session here, but let's fast forward. I was 19 years old, and our president, Nelson Mandela, as many of you know, we call him Madiba very fondly, and he became the first democratically elected president of South Africa. In that moment, South Africans would say they didn't know if they were going to be okay. There was a lot of fear, there was a lot of ego, there was a lot of, I don't want to be eradicated, I don't want my language, I don't want my being to be eradicated, I don't want to be hurt anymore, lots of mixed things. And the next year, we had the Rugby World Cup in 1995. And thanks to Madiba, now this was a sport, rugby was a sport which was played by mostly whites only who spoke Afrikaans. That was their sport. A lot of non-white people didn't know what was going on in rugby. I mean, I didn't pay attention to it, and I had quite a holistic perspective. And Madiba brought the country together, and together with a collaboration, with his collaboration with the rugby team and all the stakeholders, they brought rugby to the townships. At that stage, there was one non-white player on the rugby team. Today, of course, the captain of the rugby team is a black man. At that time, Nelson Mandela walked into the stadium on the day of the final wearing the Springbok captain's jersey. Now, the symbol of Springbok at that stage was a symbol of oppression to a lot of people. However, he had united the country so much. And people were chanting, Nelson, Nelson, and he walked on. And of course, our team started playing. I can remember it like it was yesterday. We were sitting in front of the TV and watching this. And it was the last few minutes and it was rather close. And I was saying, come on, go, you can win. And I remember my parents were sitting there, my sister was sitting there, my mom says to me, no, they're not going to win. There's too little time left. It's just good enough that they got to this point. It's such an achievement. And in that time, I think it was Joel Stransky kicked the ball and it was a winner. And there were like 2 minutes left. The whistle blew and there was just pandemonium. There were new South African flags waving everywhere. The whole country was standing up. Madiba was jumping up and down and it was amazing. And in that moment was when I believe that a lot of us South Africans felt we are okay, it's going to be okay. And it's quite an emotional thing for me because I still cry when I watch the movie Invictus. But that was the contrast, because the first thing I had, thank you for all the hearts, the first thing I had was a sense of separation and not belonging in our story. And fast forward, and here was me being able to wave a flag and sing an anthem for the first time in my life, and knowing that I belong to a country. And isn't that what we all want, to belong to the world? And if, for those of you who watched Invictus, if you watched, the end where Madiba presented the trophy to the Springbok captain Francois Pienaar, and it's actually a true thing where Madiba said, "Thank you for what you've done for our country," and you went, "No, Mr. President, thank you for what you've done for our country." And that's the potential of unity. That's what we're looking at in an event like this, in World Unity Week. And I believe that we all come into this lifetime for a message just like that. And however big or small we may perceive the message, it's ours to carry and it's ours to have. And this session is about finding that message. And if you've already found it and you're asking, why must I carry it? It's about why you must carry the message. And it's not a question of must. Why do I get to carry the message? And it's also about what makes me the right person and what makes me the message. So we're going to start with the contrast. And since this is interactive, if you'd like to share after each exercise, I'll ask, don't feel obligated, but it would be great if there was some sharing here, because we can all learn from each other. I'm not just this talking head. We all grow and learn together. So I'd like you to perhaps write down a situation that was a contrast that you feel helped you get to where you are now. To give you some idea of what that means, I'm going to read you a poem that I wrote, and this is one of those poems that came through me. It was in blackness that you knew you wanted the light. At the point of emptiness, you became aware of your potential to be full. As an outsider, you developed the hunger for your tribe. Feeling like a stranger in your own body enabled you to dream of living in your greatest sense of self-worth. In a sea of white noise, you felt the yearning for that quiet connection to your inner voice. You always thought that your compass was broken and you blamed yourself for your missteps. The truth is that you blazed the trail, and every footprint bears testimony to your courage, determination, and resilience. Because of you, others are able to see the light beyond the shadow and imagine a world that they are yet to create. Because of you, they will take the first step and know its significance. I feel that we all have that inside of us. So if there's something that reminds you of the contrast in your life, and the first level of observing that contrast is, it was done to me. And I could say that as a 3-year-old, this was done to me, that in apartheid, it was done to us. So that's the first level of observing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have to observe that at that level. We process it, we take it in. So anyone want to share that kind of contrast? If anyone wants to, just raise your hand and we can share. Yes. Oh.
Well, I'll launch the ball if no one's picking it up. I'll pick up the ball. I think to me the most profound is my self-exile from Seychelles in September 1988, when I left with wife and 3 young daughters who didn't know what was happening to them. They just arrived from school and we left. They were very pained because they didn't even get to say goodbye to a cousin, at least one of them, and that cousin who was left back in Seychelles was extremely pained by the fact that my daughter, well, my family and I, like we had left, and they hadn't, no one had said anything to them, you know. And so that self-exile has troubled me a lot over the years. I've been much distressed for it. But I can say that today I can say, because the way you put the question got me to formulate it got to formulate the answer like that. I can say today that I have found myself, my true self. And this week has proven that I am on track, because all my life experience, all my hurts and pains is helping me to be able to empathize and to connect with people, and hopefully be an instrument, even modest instrument for the high interest of the common good of humanity at so many levels. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's very moving. And I'm definitely going to use some of that example as we move into the next step. But is there anyone else who would like to share anything? Yes, Kim and Viola. Okay, Kim, you go first.
Okay. Oh gosh. I've been through a lot that is, and with my sensory awareness and intuitive gifts and ability to see and all kinds of things. So that it seems that I have an ability to understand anyone and anything that they've been through. Tex, you talk about self-exile. I finally, and I don't know quite how much I'll share because I didn't want to take a lot of time, but I finally, no matter what I could do, no matter offering whatever with my mother, and from whatever she needed to do because of all her pains that she was choosing not to deal with. A phenomenal narcissist, and gaslighting and all kinds of things, and would talk to me as if I wasn't part of the family, quite frequently. So that I finally chose, and I did a lot of working up to this, that there seemed to be nothing else that I could do. And it was so important that I live what I came here to do. I just could not allow myself to be around somebody that was constantly putting me down and nothing was good enough. So I respectfully finally said that the last decision I ever wanted to make was here. And I said goodbye and wished her well. And that was a huge learning of choosing, really getting that a choice that was right for me could be done with grace. And it may be something that somebody else did not want, but it was something that I truly needed to do. Yeah. And the other part of it is going through all this stuff with a head injury and even being on trial, the choice to be on trial when most people lose. And I won enough to keep going. I didn't win huge amounts, but these choices and these, what is greatness is forged, what do I say? Greatness is forged by meeting great challenges. And right now we have tremendous great challenges within and without, and the opportunity, therefore, to become greater than we've ever been. Yeah.
Thank you. Viola.
Well, this idea of self-exile that you all are talking about is exactly what I've done. Ever since I was a little girl, I lived in a ranch, with no electricity at the time. It was in the 50s. And I would sit outside and I'd look at the stars and I'd dream about, I don't know, I had this longing that I didn't belong there, even though I loved my grandmother and my parent and she raised me, but there was something calling to me. And I grew up with that idea. I used to dream about this knight in shining armor that would come and just rescue me and take me away somewhere. And then finally, when I grew up and I saw where my life was, where I was living with this self-abuse in this self-abusive relationship, or at least I perceived it that way, that's when I finally just got away. So I felt that coming to Oregon was my answer, just get away. For some reason, I just had to get out of Texas. And so here I am zigzagging along, making a lot of mistakes and just trying to figure it out. And then finally feeling, and this week in particular, that this is where I belong. This is where I was supposed to be, because this, where I've come from and where we are now, where I am now. And so it was like something I'm still trying to process and trying to understand. But yes, we that sense of separation, maybe because my mother didn't raise me because she was so sick. I don't know where it all started. It doesn't matter. The point is that I'm very happy now to be here and trying to figure out a way to contribute, to this world unity idea. So that's like my new dream. It's like create a new story. The old story is gone. So let's go forward, move on, and get to this new story and figure out how to do that. And that's where I am now. And thank you so much for what you've said. All of you, everyone that I've heard from these days, that reaffirms. In other words, you're saying to me, you're on the right track. So just keep on going. And that's the voice I'm listening to right now, from the heart, as you say. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. And I would just like to honor all of you who shared. This is such a sacred space, and thank you for your energy, for your contributions. And I recognize that this as a sacred space, and I'm so honored. So thank you. So moving on to the next step, and I think we're covering this. We're moving into the thought shift, and there are two things. Well, firstly, the step is called from "it was done to me," that we all knew that's what happened at the first level, to the second level, "it was done by me." And that may sound a little off to you, but what it is that there are two things you can change. You can either change the situation or the event, or you can change your perception of it. And that's the way of creating change. When we look at something in the past, the most ready way to change it is to change our perception of it. And it's not in a way where we're changing the perception of or we're making light of what happened to us. That's not it at all. But we are changing the perception. And the best way to do this is I'm going to go into meditation. And if there's anything that needs to change with the perception of it, maybe there's a shift there. And just going in with no expectation and just letting it be. So if you feel called, close your eyes and just take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale, in and out. And right now you are mind, body, spirit, sitting in your chair or wherever you're sitting. Just take your inner self, your higher self, source within, God within, whatever you want to call it, that part of yourself that is the connection to the spiritual. Just know that that is you. And right now, that part of you, you're floating to the ceiling and you're looking down at yourself sitting here in your chair. You're looking down at how your hair is done and your clothes and in the position that you're sitting. And you're looking on yourself with extreme compassion, as if you'd look at another person, and just honoring yourself for being in this moment, for being right here. And whether you're sharing openly or you're just participating inwardly in this session, just feeling that, honoring yourself for being in the sacred space, for contributing with your energy. And now, going back to whatever contrast you were thinking of when you named the contrast, when you said that this was a contrasting experience. We're forming a perception of how we were nourished by the contrast, and we've touched on this, but just going to the actual experience. Perhaps there's a person you were interacting with, and they were only at the level of growth that they could accept, they couldn't move on. That's the best that they could do with the level they were at, and they weren't growing. Perhaps you were the person in the experience whose response could only be so much, because that's the level that you were at. And you were only at that growth level. And that's okay. And we honor people for being at their growth levels. Perhaps the experience was such that it caught both of you off guard, or it caught everyone off guard. And people responded with their ego. And just like, just like we all know how much we've grown and evolved since experiences that deeply impacted us many years ago. And we've given ourselves that space to recognize that we don't need to blame ourselves, that we have grown through the experience. Perhaps we can extend that kindness to someone else too, to the other people in the situation. And it doesn't mean that we need to accept anything into us, or any treatment towards us, which doesn't honor us. But at least we can understand that perhaps they were acting from their growth level. Perhaps they've grown and perhaps they haven't. But their response had nothing to do with us, nothing at all. We were in a certain space, they were in a certain space. They were holding a mirror up to themselves, and they knew who they were. We were holding a mirror up to ourselves, and we knew who we were. And that interaction caused our mirrors to interact and reflect back to us the way we perceived the world at that time. And just going to that space of love and compassion, not blaming, but just feeling a sense of, oh, that was how it was. Whether you blame yourself or you're looking at an experience that didn't need to happen, that was painful. Just bringing the emotion out of it and looking at your now, taking that emotion out, unattaching from it, honoring the emotion at the time that you had the emotion, and now knowing from where you are that you are okay, that from where you are, you see the growth and you feel the love and compassion, and that's all that counts. And look at yourself sitting on your chair and just feel love towards the sense of love towards this being sitting there wanting to grow, attending sessions where they evolve, and float back slowly into your body. Just feel that mind, body, spirit, and create that thought shift without the emotion. You are the version of yourself you are today. You're not that version of yourself. And it doesn't matter about the other people and what version they are of themselves. That's their journey. This is yours. And let's all honor our journeys. Let's hold them sacred and know that we are who we are because of those journeys and because of the thought shift and because of what we took into our being. Take a deep breath. In and out, and slowly start opening your eyes. And just be back in the space. So we've moved from it was done to me to the second level, it was done by me, and we've created a thought shift. And then we move to a third level. I am an evolving being. And I'm going to share screen again. Everyone send your good energy, please. And this is just a recap of what we've been talking about. So whenever it, okay, wonderful, thank you. It was done to me, it was done by me. And now I am an evolving being, knowing that you've gone through that thought shift and you are a being with a message because of that whole journey, that who you are couldn't be without it. And if it was with another journey, then you wouldn't have this particular impact. You wouldn't have this particular message in your heart right now. Looking at, I am an evolving being. And just to get a sense of your message, we're just going to take a minute and just write in your journal what your sense of message is. What do you carry? For me, I remember at 3 years old, for some reason, I picked up on the sense of equality and justice I wanted in the world. I couldn't really explain it, but I do remember a situation in my childhood where my grade 6 teacher was actually teasing and saying, oh, guess what? The boys are going to leather craft class and the girls are going to do sewing, knowing that I hated sewing. And I stood up and said to her, if my child went to a school like that and they discriminated and made the girls go to sewing, I would sue the school for sexual discrimination. And it was quite a laugh, but it was something I felt very strongly about. And it was always about equality. The fact that even in high school, I went through times when there were events going on in the town library and friends would say, oh, are you going? And I'd say, no, I'm not. I can't go into the library because there was a library for every race group, and that was a library for white people. So it was just that sense that if I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't have had this experience. I may not have been here at World Unity Week presenting. And I kind of feel that we all go through something where we get to a particular point and you say, I couldn't have done it without that experience. I couldn't have moved forward. I couldn't have been who I am. There's something called the comfort of convenience, which can be our biggest obstacle. Sometimes people are in such a cocoon of convenience where they're financially comfortable, they are comfortable in the way of not having a hard time. There is nothing wrong with that. And we all strive towards that. But very often when people have that, they don't look outside the cocoon and they're not uncomfortable enough to step up to the next level. And being totally comfortable in our cocoon can lead us to be so stagnant that we don't know we're capable of such potential and such evolution. So looking at that, perhaps you have a sense of your message from that journey. I mean, Tex and Viola and Kim, you all shared such powerful journeys. And Tex, you said that where you are now, you related the two, the contrast and where you are now, and you have a sense of that message. So I just think that is so powerful. Anyone want to share their sense of message? If you want to, put up your hand, and if not, then we will. Yes, Annie.
Well, I didn't share a challenge,
Okay.
but what I'll share it briefly here to say what came out of that is when I was 14, I was diagnosed with curvature of the spine, and they put me in a Milwaukee brace for 15 months, which came up here. You know, everyone thought I was in a car accident. I got that question all the time. And then I had surgery after that because the brace was not working. So then I was in a body cast for 9 months. And 3 months after I had the surgery in Houston, interestingly enough, 500 miles from my house, I was in West Texas and had the surgery in Houston, 500 miles away. And 3 months later, the family moved to Houston, Texas. So we moved 500 miles. I was then just turning 16 and the beginning of my junior year of high school, and had an amazing group of girlfriends that had supported me through all of that. We even named my back brace Bridget. So I had a little tag on there, Bridget back brace, and one of them even baptized it in the school water fountain and all this. So that just lovely friends. But was whisked away to Houston, Texas, and homebound for my junior year with just my little 2 and 3 year old brother and sister and my mom at home, and had a tutor. And then I went out for my senior year of high school in a brand new high school, and on from there. And I never remember being despairing about that, but looking back on it, I know how much that prepared me and allowed me to have a year of silence in some sense, because it was very uncomfortable to even read or do anything laying on my back. I was to get up and walk 3 times a day, and I could sit for meals, but that was it. Otherwise I was to be laying down. So just to say how I can see so much that I already had a real passion for what I wanted. I wanted to do something with my life. I knew that we come here for service, but that really afforded me the kind of space and silence to, in some sense, force me to really, at the end of my senior year was when I had an experience I won't go into now, but to give me my life's calling, that something needed to be done about education, and to begin to seek for what that would be. And I had never heard of Montessori at that point, so it was a journey that I won't go into here. But thank you for listening to all that.
That is amazing. That's an amazing story. And I was with you on Order's discussion the other day, and it's so amazing what you've done with that, and how many lives that you've changed through Montessori. So talk about the contrast, right? And I see a message in the chat, Tom. The phrase inevitable inclusion comes to me. I was in an intensive trauma resolution seminar the week before World Unity Week, which I think had me prepared metaphysically, and here I am. Well, thank you for being here. And yeah, it's amazing how we actually get prepared for something. And I'll tell you a short experience. So it's actually with Kim. Yes, Tex. I think you're muted. Tex, you're muted.
And Dr. Tom unmuted momentarily, so maybe we should ask him to say a few words, because asked to unmute. Okay, Dr. Tom, let's hear you.
Well, thank you, my friend. Yeah, let's hear all of us. Yeah, amen. Voice.
Yeah.
I actually don't have Hasina's book at hand, but very interestingly, her new book, I was playing with the voice card yesterday. Blessed to be around. I loved Annie's words just now. And I apologize, I'm in not a great reception area, so I haven't heard all the details. But your last phrase, Annie, when you said a journey that I won't get into, I echo what Hasina just said. I was on that session with Orla and you, where Hasina was interdigitating, maybe, right? Integrated with her various meditations along the way. And a journey that I won't get into is viral wisdom. I happen to be involved in immune science, and there is, without the details, right? being able to get the vibe and the spirit of something without the details is a sense of freedom. And it's a beautiful space to be in. And it's probably not an accident. The reason I wrote inevitable inclusion is I doubt that there was any doubt in the universe's wisdom that I would be here under any conditions. Yeah. But I was led here because an intensive program about trauma resolution in social context the week before led me here. And then I was listening to a lot of the presentations this week in a space of what we speak of in the addictions community as, when an alcoholic or a drug addict hits bottom, that's the very best day of their life. And when we come here for service, we know that, but we don't always have language for it. We don't have words for it. Yeah. And Hasina and I talk about that very deeply sometimes, this how living in the question mark and living in that space of readiness it's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be traumatic. And a lot of my commitment on the planet is how do we come back to center? And there's no right or wrong thing to be, even though, when I look at a patient's blood work, for example, and there is a recommended zone, right? We've fallen into a default social fabric mentality of this is the right way or this is the healthy way. And for me, a lot of the dynamic is coming back to center, coming back to, right? And it's supposed to be an experiment. It's supposed to be a metaphysical and a spiritual experiment, but as much as it is a physiologic experiment. As we operate in flux, I think that's the beauty of this community is so many different voices coming together and realizing it's that inherent need to know, or it's that inherent I am graced to be here. I am graced to be in the flow, right, of the conglomerate, if you will, or the congress of all of these different voices. And something's going to happen. And living in that question mark lets me be in a place where I can release the previous me. There's nothing wrong with the previous me. I think we all here in the healing community, we honor everything that we do, and every little step along the way is a part of the journey. And we get to stop making ourselves wrong for what we've done, even though, if we had to do it all over again, no way I would have done that, right? No way I would have done, right? No way I would have dated that one, or no way I would have married that one, or no way I would have written that prescription or like that. And so we can honor all of those little pieces. So thank you for letting me babble. And I'm looking forward to releasing the previous version of me always. And I love your work, Hasina. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think that's such a great segue into the next session. And just talking about purpose, what I do want to share is the other day was it yesterday? I was on Kim's session. I don't even remember which day it was. And I had just been in 2 meetings and thought, well, let's help prepare supper and then get supper done. And then I'll go on to World Unity Week. And I remember, Kim, your session was then, and I thought, oh, I'll just turn it on while I'm preparing supper. And it's funny how the universe connects the dots. So I walk from one end of the kitchen to the other to do something, and then comes Kim's voice, Hasina, can you show your video? And I'm like, oh, crap. So I quickly turned on the video and went somewhere else. And then there was going to be a breakout session. As that happened, I realized, okay, so I am here. So apparently I'm participating in the breakout session. Respect to you, Kim, I would have participated, and it's an honor to participate. But at that particular moment, so I thought, well, you know what, universe, whoever you want to connect me with, that's fine. Maybe I haven't met them before. Maybe I'm supposed to network with them. Well, guess who I got connected with? Kim. And I said to Kim, this is very interesting that we partnered together. And she said, why? And I said, because this is what I say to the universe. And yet it comes back to us being partnered together. So she asked me to share something, which I did, something that frustrated me. And I'll be perfectly honest about what it was. And I was talking about the whole vaccine issue. No one wants to discuss that. But I was discussing why I didn't believe in it, and how I had to take a step back and realize that everyone makes a personal choice. And in that moment, Kim said something which gave me an aha moment. We went back to the big room, and we were all discussing this, and Kim goes, Hasina, would you like to share? And so I start talking about it, and I say, people, this is a touchy subject, and start talking about my transformation or my stepping back, and also the aha moment that Kim had helped me to have. And as soon as I said that, when the next speaker or the next participant shared, she said, I have exactly the same challenge as Hasina. And she was saying how she felt the same way and how it was costing her friends and her family and the work in some way. I'm simplifying it now. And then she said, could anyone who, maybe if you don't mind, if you haven't had it, can you put up your hand? And what was awesome was the whole room put up their hand. And I felt the sigh of relief from everyone, that everyone was feeling, I am so alone. And this is how I feel. And so Kim, you facilitated that, you nurtured it, and thank you. But I knew then that was why I was meant to be there. That's why I went to the phone and I heard Kim say, can you put on your video? And in that moment, that message came to me. So this morning I was talking to my yoga student in the UK, and she was having the same conversation. And I related this to her. And she said, oh, so I'm not alone. It's amazing the messages that we carry forth because we've asked to, and yet we don't know who's going to carry them to or how we're going to carry them. And it's just amazing. It's a question of letting go and trusting in the universe. That being said, let's move on to the next screen share. Okay.
Hasina, is there a way to have the featured slide take up the whole screen?
Yeah, can you double click it, Hasina? I don't know, it never is going to the full page. So really you could just read them to us if it doesn't, but maybe a double click. I don't know what you're
seeing the whole one now.
No, we haven't seen any of them. I actually took your last screen share down after a bit because it was just sitting with your choice screen on there.
I apologize. I don't know why, but I'm going to read it to you. So we started with, it was done to me, then it was done by me, and now we got to, I am an evolving being. And under I am an evolving being, it is, let me just see if this can help. No, it's not helping. Okay, it's I am the nourisher, which is a situation of I give the message. I get to nourish people. And I'll take down the screen share just now. And then I am the nourished. I receive my calling. And the third thing is I am the nourishment. So I am the message. Let me just see. My mom has entered the waiting room, so I better let her in. Okay. I will start sharing now. Okay, cool. All right. So we get to apologies about the slides. I really don't know what the situation is, but we're going to, as we're evolving beings, I am the nourisher, and we get to say, I give the message. If you have a sense of what message you give to people, just write that down in your journal, the message that you give. And if anyone would like to share what message they give as the nourisher, yes, Kim.
Three of them have come through, and that's a process that I'm going through, is how to hone what the heck I do and how to speak it, because I'm just so in the moment and can support whatever shows up. So three come. Creating greater value than any
Yeah,
cost.
Kim, can you speak up just a little bit, Kim?
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, and let me turn up my volume a little bit. Is that better? Yeah, okay. So creating greater value than any cost, coming out better than we, us have ever been, that you and what you wish to become are possible.
And that's an awesome thing. It may sound esoteric to you, but at least it sums up what you want to do with whatever you do. And you do many things.
I know.
Many amazing things. Let's put it like that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We're going to go through the next process, so just hang on with that. Anyone else want to share? What is the message that you give? If you'd like to share, put up your hand. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next thing. Okay. So the next step is, I am the nourished. And that is when we grow. That is from all the experiences in our lives. I became the nourished when I related that story about being on Kim's presentation the other day. I got to be nourished without expecting it, without wanting to be. It wasn't even a conscious choice. It just came to me because somewhere along the line, I needed that growth. I needed that being nourished. It's very much like a plant. When we look at the plant receiving nourishment through the sun, the whole process of photosynthesis, and the plant gets nourished. And that nourishment goes through the stem, through the roots and the stem, the whole vascular system, and the plant is able to grow. So being nourished is when maybe you don't expect it, but you're still receiving that calling. So just think about any situation where you maybe didn't expect to be nourished in the way that you were. And it doesn't have to be a contrasting situation. It can be any situation where you just felt that I am nourished, and you received a calling through that. We'll just take a few seconds on that. Okay, anyone want to share?
I just feel nourished all the time. I don't know. It just feels like it just is always pouring in, as you say, unexpectedly. I guess, occasionally when I get so busy, I'm not noticing that. Just stepping outside and just paying attention to what's there. I can't help but feel nourished. And even, so something that's really been in my consciousness more and more of with COVID, how blessed I am to live in the United States with with all these advantages and with this clean, good, nourishing food and water and, just not taking any of that for granted. I mean, how could you not feel nourished, But for sure, I'm just surprised by love and all kinds of goodness.
And do you feel that, do you have a conscious sometimes of how it adds to your calling?
As to my calling, I mean, it just feels like a flow to me, Hasina. I mean, being with the children in the classroom, I mean, certainly there are challenges here and there, but, just then someone comes and gives me a hug or, shows me something lovely that they just created. I mean, it's a flow, right? We have the challenges and we can feel like we're not nourished, like something's been taken from us, and like you say, you blame yourself. You start thinking, I shouldn't react to that. I shouldn't respond in that way. But then, something presents to say, you're my beloved child, and in you, I'm well pleased, and so it just.
I love it. Mom, I see you have your hand up, and I'm going to get there. And Annie, what you said about the flow, it's such an amazing concept. I was doing an Akashic Records reading for a client some months ago, and what came to me is that giving and receiving are in the same flow. It's like the circulatory system. And yes, Tom, I know I'll be explaining this very simplistically, but you get the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood, and at some point, it's that point at which they almost meet. But it's all in the same flow, goes to the same circulatory system. So when we nourish others, we have the opportunity to be nourished ourselves, and we also have the opportunity that through being nourished, we become the nourishment for others when they look at us, and we are who they look to for hope. Mom, do you want to unmute? Your hand is up.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Mom.
So the way that I am nourished is several years ago, I planted seeds. Out of that came my two beautiful daughters. And they're now in my life. I feel nourished having them around me through their accomplishments, their achievements, and what they contribute to the world. And I also feel so nourished because a year ago, I met Dr. Tom Asplin. We were in a state, in my mind, in a state of, should I say status? I don't know, stasis, because I can't think of the right word to use right now. But it was like when a river is supposed to flow, it is not flowing. It's stationary. Then came Dr. Tom Asplin into our lives. And suddenly, things started changing. Through having my daughters in my life, having Tom in my life, it's as if I had found new purpose. And it helped me contribute to the world in my own way. So I feel really blessed because of having them in my life. So all three of you, thank you. And Kim, getting to know you was that extra blessing in my life. And thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. That was very sweet. And it's it's amazing when people come into our lives and we get to know them, and it's just all in perfect divine timing. It's just like a wonderful symphony that just happens, and you don't know how and you don't know why, and it just happens so wonderfully. So I just love that. Even the people I do believe, I've read how you choose your parents and how you basically choose the people in your life. And if that happened, I think I've made some very good choices. You know, I have to pat myself on the back here. Anyway, I see Orla, you've joined us. It's so great to see you. Yeah.
I did. I was preparing for this big history conference, and so we were talking. And so I just finished, and I have to leave because there's another thing for my mythology class Saturday. I have to. It's overwhelming, all of this interconnection, you know. But it's getting things done, which is just amazing. But I just wanted to pop in and see everyone again. So I'll leave in a couple of minutes, but I don't want to disrupt the flow.
Great to see you. Tom, I see you have your hand up.
I don't believe her. I think she does want to disrupt the flow, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I think everybody here wants to disrupt the flow, and maybe it's time we gave ourselves permission to do that. We call it shaking up the snow globe. Yeah. Yeah. Talk about synchronicity. I was so blessed to meet Orla in person. Actually, to be accidentally here in the same city in Sarasota, not where I live, but the universe put that together. And I was, Rashida, thank you so much for your beautiful words. And it's so interesting because, Hasina, when you were asking what does Nourisher, right? What does the Nourisher offer? Only in the past maybe 10 years or so, I was trained inside a paradigm that said there is an expert and there is a top-down delivery of a therapeutic, and there is listen to me as expert. And I think, and that's not isolated in the medical community. That's, I think, it's what we're educated into. I think that's illustrated so well with the experts on this call. And apologies for the background. Only in the past 10 years or so, I've since having a mindfulness practice of my own, finding yoga, finding meditation, I've been able to get a little bit of a taste of the idea that I am better when I offer something, and when I have something to give. And I am the receiver, and that's one thing I think that almost every healer signs up for when they say yes to step into whatever their discipline is, right? When they're training their discipline, that's something that is probably unspoken, and then it gets educated out of us, right? It gets educated out of us that we are the winner. I as healer, I am the winner, and that's the beautiful thing. What you and what Rashida has generated there in her family tree of healers is a tribe of people who know that dynamic, a tribe of people who know that they are better when they give, right? And then the right people can show up, then the right people who are, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and the people who are the proper reflection of what we have to offer show up. And then it looks like there's a patient over there, but that's not what it is. It's, okay, here's another opportunity that the universe, divine presence, the omnipotent wisdom of the universe has offered me yet another place to interact, to pretend with my ego that I have something to offer, right? And I'm going to learn from this, and I emerge better. So Rashida, that's my way of honoring you for knowing that you are on a conveyor belt of ever bettering your spiritual self, and it's a blessing to be along for the ride.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony. And moving into the next thing, when we know that we are nourished, we've received our calling, and you move into I am the message. And we just walk into I am embodying the message, I'm personifying the message. And when people see me, they see that message. I think that's something that we've all done in some form or another at World Unity Week. So how do you see yourself being the message? Just write down any way that you are the message, whether it's in your calling, your work, or whether it's in any other way.
Well,
Okay.
I guess sometimes the silence is part of the music. So should I say anything, or should I just keep quiet and let the silence ride a bit?
Please say something. I think I was distracted by the wonderful chat, and I wanted to see if I missed anything, but yes, please say something.
Yeah, no, it's, I feel so blessed this week, being with all of you. I mean, like, we are among some of the steady regulars this week, and we have been evolving. Probably we each see each other like improving, getting better at sharing our vulnerabilities, and better at integration, and maybe we're getting better at sort of activating how we will be deeding to the next generations, so that our actions today are effectively deeds that we are leaving for the next generation. So might as well make sure that it's good deeds. I mean, like, it's valuable deeds, that the generations ahead will appreciate the legacy that we leave them. So yeah, it's so rich and humbling, and at the same time very empowering this week. Thank you.
I love that. Yes, Viola.
Well, I got to thinking when you got to the last one, the word divine exchange. It's like giving and receiving and giving and receiving. It's all that, maybe a spiral, the more you give, the more you receive, and so on. And then what I've been doing is, it's hard for me sometimes to be silent. So I write in, I keep a journal. So all the questions that you have asked, to going from the observer to the observed, going from, and I'm thinking about all the words that are like, I'm thinking observer, observed, the explicate, implicate, the without, and the within, and the outer, and the inner, and all of these words that come from, that I've picked up from various places. It's all about expressing the same idea, the divine exchange. So what I'm feeling here from everything is this exchange, this dialogue that's been going on that is so enriching and so nourishing and so, you know, and it's making me fatter. You know, I'm finally starting to gain a little bit of weight. I had lost so much, but the weight I've gained is in the heart. You know, it's in me. It's within me. You know, so I feel so nourished, and so I'm taking all your questions, and I'm writing in my journal and developing them. And as I, you know, I've been doing a little journaling as I go here, but I'm going to officially just take time when I have, you know, time to develop all those questions in my journal. And so thank you. This is just great for me where I am at this point.
Thank you. You know, Viola, it's amazing how you have just the right, just the right comments, and you know, people just saying those kinds of things, and it's in perfect divine timing. And I'll respond to you, Viola. Text, you were saying, you know, what we can do in the world, and that's the next step that we're going to get to. And Viola, yesterday, as I was, you know, I'm not a fan of taking a talk that I have and using it over and over and over, because I believe I'm an evolving being. And for me, I need to give what's inside of me. I have to give from that evolution. There has to be a journey and a purpose there. So yesterday, as I'm expanding this talk and this presentation, and I was talking to Tom and saying to him, this is going to be something where I don't want to be the talking head. I feel like if someone takes this and they can develop these steps with their own personal journey, that for me is really worthwhile, where it can not just be theory, but something that they can do. And Viola, what you said, it just, thank you so much, because that kind of reaffirms that. Having said that, we often ask this question, how may I serve? A lot of times we have events like these and we're thinking, well, what happens now? Because we're also motivated and we're also in the moment and present. And what happens after that? How do we create the? I heard, I think it was on the opening ceremony about peace in 2030, and I'm paraphrasing. I hope I got that right. But for that to happen, all of us have to take inspired action. It's not just about doing things, it's about feeling called to do things. For us to feel called, we need to get to a point where we are growing and we are on the journey where we can feel called. So the fourth step we spoke about, I am the nourisher, I'm the nourished, I'm the nourishment. And the fourth step, and I won't torture you with a slide, I am more me because you are you. I am more me because you are you. I feel that that's such an important part. When we know our deepest truth and we find our voices and we unlayer from all these expectations that we take from the village that raised us, from other people, and we unlayer from how we think circumstances define us, and we start realizing that nothing defines us. No one defines us, no one's opinions, no one's expectations. And we step out of that and say, I'm going to shine my light, and the light within me is what's going to determine what I do and what I say and what I think, and my thoughts, words, and actions are going to be aligned to my deepest truth. And when we finally find that moment, we start asking ourselves, how may I serve, and interacting with the world, because we are strong enough to do that. We are strong enough to be us when we are interacting with others. I am more me because you are you is a growth that we get from the world, through the world, but we don't take on anyone but ourselves. So it's our truth aligning with anything that we get from anyone else. And in that state, as we ask, how may I serve? We come to the part of this where what are we going to do? What are each of us here, all 9 of us, going to do to get to that place of cooperation and peace? And it doesn't necessarily have to be work. It doesn't have to be anything. There's a whole energetic component here. Who are we going to be? It's about being, not doing. So maybe the takeaway here is, who will I be? How may I serve? Just being who I am. And living in that question, living in, Tom, you spoke about living in the question mark, living in that question mark in particular, every single day. So how can we come to each day from now on and go, how may I serve? Who will I be? And then make a conscious choice and take that into the world, because it really is one candle means that there's not darkness anymore, and one candle lights another, and we just become a room full of light. And as I see it, I think that's what we are called to do. I don't speak for anyone, but that's how I feel. And maybe that's the way to end this. Just challenging ourselves and writing in our journals one last time. Where are we going to? Who am I? What may I give? What may I share? And going back to that deepest intention, guide me today to live in peace, to step out in power, act in knowing, think what feels good, and give who I am, and then knowing inside who I am. Whenever I start teaching this and there's this process that comes in, we're never going to know who exactly we are. We're ever changing, but we can get a sense of it, and we can learn our deepest truth in this moment. And what I'd like to, the note that I'd like to end on is that when we look at us, when we look at each other, and as we look at each other, we're holding a mirror up to ourselves, because what is reflected is through our filters. And just to say that you are the thought shift, you're the impetus, you're the activator, you're the catalyst, and the power is yours. Like, that power can never be taken away from us. As we rise into the world every single day, we have that power and we have choice. And we are the nourishers, we are the nourished, we are the nourishment, and we become more than. I become, or I am more me, because you are you. And thank you for your energy contributions. Thank you for all your word contributions, and for being here and the support. Like, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Just a little compliment about self-exile and finding self. It just occurred to me now, you know, like the synergy of the group, like, gives me these aha moments. You know, aha is becoming contagious right now. That's what we want to go viral, the ahas.
Yeah.
Now, I was walking to the river. Can you imagine the river that I walk to quite often, almost every morning? I can see the sun rising over it. It's called the Thousand Islands River in French, over here in Quebec, Rivière des Mille Îles. And I used to think that in Seychelles we had a lot of islands, 100+ islands. Just now it occurred to me, like, I left islands and here I am. The river has 1,000 islands, you know. The other day I went on, you know, we went there for Father's Day. My daughter invited me to go canoeing. Can you imagine? It's the first time in my life she invites me to go with her family, my 2 grandkids, granddaughter and grandson, to go canoeing. And here in World Unity Week, we're talking about the magic canoe, and there I was paddling. Initially, I was supposed to be getting a kayak, and then there was no 2-person kayak because I was to take someone else. So they say, okay, you'll go in a canoe. So in the end, I ended up in a canoe. Anyway, thinking about a drop of joy can transform oceans of negativity. So I was contemplating that one morning, and it occurred to me that the smallest candle, which is a little birthday candle that you put on the cake, no amount of darkness will ever put out that little candle. So let your little light shine.
Love it. Thank you. So it's such a blessing to know all of you. I am going to stop the recording now.